Welcome to the Imperial Grandstand. I'm Malin Imperial.
I'm Carlos Del Rosario.
Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about our first time playing D&D together,
Y-
and what we like to call.
yes, Confessions of a Novice D&D Player, Episode 1, Beginnings. As the title implies, we are novice D&D players. We've recently, started up some parties, and I've started to do some DMing, and we're having so much fun that we want to share the joy with the people.
Right. And I think I can't talk about for you, but I can talk about for me. And the first time I played, I just didn't have the mentality right. And I think that this video here is just to really let people who've never played D&D at all know what to really expect.
Yes. What do people think it is?
Well, I know what I thought, and the way that it was presented to me by my first DM back in 2004, oof, is that it's the player characters, also known as the PCs, against the DM in the world,
Yes.
and it's very confrontational, and that's one way to play it. But it just didn't rub me the right way.
No. No. Yes, to me it's a cooperative game, and it's where you have a bunch of people together, and in you're in a collective imaginations. You're all telling a story together, and I
Yeah,
love that.
it's a team game
It's a team game, yes.
because the way it was presented to me at the beginning was, oh yeah, it's you just go in this world where no, the way it really I think to have the best enjoyment out of it for both the DMs and PCs is that the PCs, help build the world. We help flesh it out. We ask questions about what's going on.
Yes, yeah, it's very important to build that world to get your players in there. To give a fast description to Dungeons and Dragons, there is a dungeon master, or a DM as they call it, and they act as a narrator who describes the environment and the people that you interact with. Generally, you're going to be in some type of fantasy setting of some sort.
Yeah.
The players role play as characters and tell the DM what they want to do, and things that are left to skill or chance are determined with the roll of a dice. Usually it's a 20-sided
20-sided
die. Yeah, a d20, and we also add in the stats of the characters, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll actually go into how to create a character and what all those numbers mean in a totally separate episode. So we're not going to talk about anything at all that isn't just fundamentals. So don't worry
Fundamentals,
about
and
that.
this is just our experiences in Dungeons and Dragons. Again, we're very new to this, and we just want to share it with you. So if you're out there on YouTube, like, oh, these guys did it all wrong. Like, yeah, we did it all wrong. This is a part of it, and I think you learn most from other people's mistakes sometimes, and especially your own mistakes. But it's sometimes better to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yes, I am the. You should learn from Alan. That's a lot of stories.
Yes. Speaking of mistakes, what was your first experience with Dungeons and Dragons in general?
In general, I created my character. We were hanging out at some type of open field. We're eating, having a merry time, and then the boss came, told us what was up. I I talked back to it, and I took damage immediately, without a way to defend myself.
You
And
know,
it's just like, wait, what?
that's no, that's foul play. Um, what I meant more from not playing just Dungeons and
Oh, the very
Dragons,
first
the
exposure.
the exposure of it.
Oh,
Yes.
this is going to be a Marlon Wayne movie.
Oh yes. That's not Requiem for a Dream.
No, no, that's a great movie. That's a great movie. This is a movie
Yes.
that just you're not sad because the movie is sad. You're sad because you're wasting your time watching this movie.
You watch it and you just feel you're sad. You're sad watching because it could have been so much more. and it's this.
It came out in 2000. I saw it in bootleg in the Philippines while on vacation, and I was like, wait, is this a real movie? Because I got it from like the rental place.
Yeah, it feels like it's a direct to VHS movie. Honestly,
I
it's so
saw it
cheap.
on Betamax.
Like Jeremy Irons is in it, and I actually like him a lot in this movie, but he's just so over the top. He's so there for the paycheck, and the effects are terrible. And if I were a Dungeons and Dragons fan at that time, I would be livid.
I
But
love the dichotomy of score though. I think because it's a 10 on Rotten Tomatoes,
yes,
but 69 nice percent like this movie. What?
you know what? Maybe it just sometimes when you watch it when you're younger, it's like, oh, it just grows on you. You just start liking crappy movies, and it's like, okay. Or maybe they like it so much because it's just so bad. Perhaps it's like that. And maybe I'm one of those people. I haven't seen the movie for like 20 years.
It's a
So,
guilty pleasure.
but keep in mind, this movie came out in the year 2000. Like, basically, almost exactly a year before Lord of the Rings. So, my theory is if this came out in the year 2002 or 2003, I mean, they would have put more attention into the movie because like they're like fantasy's a thing. We have fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons. That's our thing. Maybe we should actually put real talent behind this.
Oh, this movie was craptacular.
Yes.
So, speaking of other craptacular things in Dungeons and Dragons media, how did you experience Dungeons and Dragons: The
Oh
Revelation?
yes. Well, like a lot of people, it wasn't with the game itself. It was with the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. As a young lad, I was like just watching Saturday morning cartoons, just manja manja. I just want cartoons, and this was one of the cartoons, and I liked fantasy. And you got a bunch of kids.
I think I saw this because I see that little dude in the red.
Yes,
You have to scroll up a little to show the
ah
audience.
yes.
Oh, left
right,
side.
left side. There we
you
go.
And it's I'm just like, wait, did I see this? Did I
You,
block it
you
out?
probably did. You probably blocked it out of your imagination. But these kids, they're at a county fair or something. They go on a amusement park ride, like a roller coaster or a haunted house, and then they get transported into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and like there's a wizard and a fighter, and there's a tiny unicorn. So, yeah.
They're called baby unicorns.
Baby unicorn, sure. Yes. But yeah,
Wow.
that was
A Saturday. Okay, you have to scroll up just a little bit for our audience.
yeah.
Does that not look like Wonder Woman or an Amazonian?
Yes. What is she supposed to be? That's a good question. Now that I actually know Dungeons and Dragons, what class is she? And it's like, and if you know, you'd probably scream it out on the comments. Like,
Yeah. Drop a comment
yeah,
if you saw either the movie or the cartoon.
yeah. But it's for us, it was not a direct. Oh, Dungeons and Dragons, the game. I didn't even know it was a game until later in life. So
Yeah, I saw the movie in like 2001, that summer, and I didn't play the game for like another 3 or 4 years.
yeah.
So,
All right.
when,
And
so
but without really knowing, we were exposed to Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah.
through video games.
yeah,
and-
the rule set.
And yeah,
games.
I was a really big I am a really big fan of Final Fantasy, and especially the original games back in the day in the 90s and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
they had the classes, and obviously,
yeah. And yeah, they definitely took a lot from Dungeons and Dragons, and of course, we have Baldur's Gate, one of the most famous RPGs out there. There's the new game
it's
that's
coming out, or
coming out.
you
It's
get played if you have early access.
early access right now. Neverwinter Nights, and how
That's how I was exposed to D&D
Yeah.
without knowing it was D&D, because you had to create your own little. You could create your own little adventures.
now that I'm thinking about it, Knights of the Old Republic Absolutely D&D. Yeah, it takes a lot from their end.
Yeah,
Bio.
turn based.
Yeah, and it's D&D is in a lot of DNA of a lot of other games, especially BioWare games, like Dragon Age and KOTOR, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and in a way, we've been playing D&D for years without actually playing D&D. So it's just once we started playing the games, like, oh, that's where they got everything. This is insane. I love this.
Now I'm just thinking how every Jedi is a paladin.
Ah, yes.
So,
Yeah. Well, recently, D&D has really, broken to the mainstream, more into pop culture, and
yeah. Obviously, you have shows like Stranger Things,
Stranger
just
Things. Yes.
literally based off of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Let me bring that up. Yeah, that's how you are introduced to the characters.
That's Emmy Gorgon.
Yeah, and what I love is all the adults are having problems understanding what's happening, and the kids are like, Demigorgons, this is a parallel universe, because they have that lexicon of Dungeons and Dragons.
And then they talk to their teacher, and the teacher gets it because he has the lexicon of science.
Yeah, the Underdark,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, it's great, and they even have their own Dungeons and Dragons game now, so that's really cool. Yeah, but yeah, this show must have gotten a lot of people into Dungeons and
I
Dragons.
think it got us into it eventually.
Yeah, because I wanted to be those boys. I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons and with my friends. So yeah, that got me excited. And of course, one of my favorite shows is the IT Crowd, and they have
Their own version with
their own version. They don't technically play Dungeons and Dragons, but they're totally playing Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Out of shows that I have to finish is Community.
Oh, Community. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
And here's a show that you can't find on Netflix anymore, or the episode.
Yeah.
It's the D&D episode. But thankfully, I saw it before all that.
Yeah. There was some controversy about something that happened in the episode. We're not really going to
We're
get
not
into
gonna hash
that
it out at
now.
all.
But it is one of my favorite episodes, and I think the themes are very strong. And I'm sad to not have it on Netflix, but I think if you're smart, you could find it somewhere.
Yeah.
So we have it there. But yeah,
And it's wonderful because it's been bleeding even before
yeah.
that.
My theory is you have all these kids in the 70s and 80s who are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they created these worlds in their heads. And that's how the spark happened. They started writing and imagining, and then that became their careers. And eventually, these writers and producers, want to share Dungeons and Dragons. It's
There are a
yeah.
ton of celebrities
Yes.
who play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh
Actually.
yes.
Speaking of, one of my favorite celebrities who plays Dungeons and Dragons is going to be Mrs. Sofia Varga.
Yeah, this
I
handsome
can't
dude
pronounce
right
his
here.
Name,
Yes.
but he's
Joe.
a very handsome man.
Yes, yeah, the original Flash Thompson from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, where you got punched into a locker.
But this handsome dude,
Joe
this
Manganiello.
yeah, he basically has a giant basement that he converted into like his Dungeons and Dragons den, and look at him. This is
That's a dude from Rage Against the Machine.
yes, and wow, he has like so many like friends that he plays with, and
Just scroll down just a little bit to that one. There we go. Look, his place is so big, the Big Show looks normal sized.
let me, yeah, look
Like-
at that,
Wow.
insane, right? And it's yeah, I'm really and he's really been an ambassador for D&D, and I love that he's breaking what people think a D&D player is, which is just nerdy, just always hunched over, doesn't get enough sunlight.
Look at that. It's perfectly lit. Look, there's a
Look.
dragon on the wall.
Look, fantasy games and RPGs and stuff, like time has moved on from the 70s to now. Like, no, we play fantasy games all the time now. It's more widespread. So D&D is no longer considered nerdy. I feel it's actually pretty cool.
Yes. Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't start playing at all because nobody was playing around me.
Yes, yeah, same thing.
So
Middle school, high school, college, even college, I would have expected someone to play Dungeons and Dragons. No one did.
yeah,
No one
that
did.
one guy tried, and we all hated him for it.
You see, I am saddened because if things went differently and you got really into Dungeons and Dragons, I would have been into Dungeons and Dragons for decades. So
Yeah.
that really does sadden me. Oh, I forgot to mention, yeah, Geek and Sundry and Matthew Mercer.
Oh,
Oh my God, so one of the greats. Yeah,
this is Critical Role.
Critical Role. Yeah,
Obviously, we have to just do a shout out because Critical Role actually inspired me to be a bard.
did it? Okay.
Yeah. Granted, I'm a little raunchier, and if you want, we could, if you viewers want, we could definitely talk about our adventures.
Hmm.
But yeah, because it literally was everything that I wanted to do outside of combat. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that was a character because I wanted to solve things by talking, but I got punished for it the first time I played. And it's like, no, there's a character for you, Alan. You just don't know it yet.
Yes, yes. But
So I love uh, Mercer on
oh yeah,
Critical
the
Role. He
like
just
the
builds a world.
Bill's Worlds knows his rules. Some say that he's almost too good, where other DMs are trying to be him, or people are disappointed that, oh, why aren't you more like Matthew Mercer?
It's like
I'm like,
it's like somebody painted me a picture and saying, "Oh, why aren't you Picasso?" You don't do that when somebody gives you a painting.
yeah, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, but definitely someone I look up to, and uh, yeah, there are lots of videos with Matthew Mercer. One of them that I really adore is there's a celeb D&D with Terry Crews, and there are actually two teams. There's like I think yeah, it's like a World of Warcraft thing. So yeah, one of them is with one team is with the Alliance, I think, and the other one's the Orcs and the Horde.
Mm.
And yeah, and they play separately, but then they come together and then they have to face each other, and it's like, oh my god, this is great! I love this.
And you can find this on Geek and Sundry.
Geek and Sundry, yeah, and it's great, and like Terry Crews is really into it, and oh, Vin Diesel also has something with a Celeb D&D where he plays a witch hunter.
I actually saw an interview,
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh wow, yeah. So
he's so happy.
it's been so D&D's been around since the '70s, and it's just been without me knowing in everything that I like.
Yes.
Um, but when I tried to play it, somebody said to me, "Oh, do you want to be a DM?" This is after I had that experience,
Uh-huh.
and I just didn't want to because the books are thick.
The books are thick. It could be intimidating, and honestly, I don't think I've ever learned a game just by reading the book. I've learned the game by playing, and that's one of the things that stopped me from playing Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, yeah. So let's see. In the beginning, to get out of my funk, where I'm like, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I need to start. I went to a game night at a board game shop, a game shop called Gamestoria. That was in Astoria, Queens, New York. And let me try to find it here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, and it's a lovely place. But the problem was when I was with my party, I couldn't hear the DM. It was just way too loud, and it's not a mark against Game Storia.
It's just they were popular.
Yeah, they
It's
were
like,
popular, and it's like, and it is paramount that you hear your DM and you get consumed by that world, and it just wasn't clicking. I couldn't I couldn't handle.
yeah, something that really helped me in our game session is just having that background music, so that way I can get lost in your world. So the outside world noises, don't affect us because I we were going down a cliff, and I honestly felt like I fell because I fell. And without getting into any of the details, I rolled the die and the die was bad. and and if you didn't craft such a world, I don't think I would have felt that. It wouldn't have been as visceral. So yeah, that's I could see why that'd be like a problem. So yeah, something to think about when you're actually playing is it actually conducive for everybody? Is everybody being engrossed?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was antithetical to what I really needed as a player. I was giving my full attention, but it just wasn't happening.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So after that, I got the starter kit, and here we go.
yeah. Show everybody.
Here we go. And you could probably get this at Target or Amazon. It's pretty cheap. I think retail is 20, but you could probably get it for 15, maybe less than. And it comes with a lot of things.
So the things I really like are one, it's the handbook. It's the rule book, I should say, not handbook, and it just tells you all the little rules like how does the dice work, when do you roll, things like that, and it comes with a little paper sheet to fill it out.
Yeah,
It kind
a
of
few
tells
paper
you
sheets
how
and
to fill it out.
yeah, and pre-made characters. Yes.
Yeah, so that way you're not doing it blind if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, it gives you things you have to know, like how good do you hit.
Yeah.
That's how I put it. And if you're somebody who is like me, who doesn't know how to craft a story, they got their own little story here.
Yeah. I think it's the Lost Mine of Fandelver, and it's from what I hear, it's pretty good. Yeah, pretty good starter. But yeah, thing is, stupid me. It's like I don't learn from reading. That's
And
that's
and
that
they
sounded
give
bad,
you
but yes.
you don't learn from reading.
I don't learn from book reading. I learn from playing,
And they give you die.
so it's like I had it. It was just gathering dust for quite some time until, yeah, I that's your D20. Yeah, there we go. And that's probably the most important die in all of Dungeons and Dragons right there. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was working at an after-school program, and I noticed that the kids are they're not being very creative. And well, how do I infuse creativity? And it's like, I got Dungeons and Dragons. We can play that. So just on a whim, I bring it to the school, and the kids, I've learned really into it. I don't we I was like, oh, this will jumpstart my Dungeons and Dragons and how I'll learn. No, it did not. It
Ooh.
just I was like basically just homebrewing my own rules, and as long as I was consistent and the kids were having fun, I think it was a rousing success. But were we really playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Kinda, sorta.
Kinda, sorta, but not really.
Yeah.
Um,
And one of the rules in the rule book,
yes.
it's actually in here. I'm not gonna find it, but it actually says you're supposed to be having fun.
Yeah, have fun. That's really it. And the rules are basically just a blueprint, and even the best DMs go off the path, and they do that if it leads to more fun. So, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was really my first time as a DM, as a storyteller in that capacity, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. And you let the kids kind of just do whatever, like unlock their imagination.
Well, yeah,
In terms
yeah,
of the
yeah.
rules.
You have these kids who have been told, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And now, like, we're all working in a collective imagination. I am narrating the story, and you are in a village, and they got into some problems with some villagers, and one of the kids, a troublemaking kid, but good kid. He's like, I wanna eat the blacksmith's children, and I'm like. and it was like, I don't know the rules. So I was like, okay, all right, he's gonna have to have a high roll, and he does a spectacular roll. He does an amazing roll, and I'm like, all right, you eat the children. He was so happy that he ate those children.
He was
Yeah,
his imagination was unencumbered.
yes, unencumbered.
But
But yeah, that's really great, and like if you want, these kids to actually listen to you, you make it a game, and now they have, something to focus on, and you're all having a good time.
yeah, yeah. I wish my first time was like that, where I was allowed to be creative. But no. But the second time I played, I definitely was allowed to be creative. I was so creative, I got lost in the woods.
Yes,
I rolled
your
in.
creativity just screwed everyone, and but you know what? We were still having fun.
We were.
We were. All right. My second attempt at playing legitimate Dungeons and Dragons, I went to a store called Hex and Company. That's located in by Columbia University in New York, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Yeah. Wall to wall games, and it's lit so well. Has some very good food too. And
That's the money shot.
there was an encounters night where,
Wait, what? They serve alcohol?
yeah, they serve alcohol.
Oh wow, that's wonderful.
Look at that. That's Clarence, the
That.
beholder.
Oh okay.
I'm very familiar with him now.
I'm like, no, that's a beholder. That's not Clarence. I'm like, oh, he has a name. Okay.
Yes, beholders, they have names.
Now I know.
Yes. But yeah, wonderful place. I had an amazing DM who showed me the ropes, San, and they were amazing. And I played as a rogue, and I was like, man, rogues are OP. I love this. Just shooting arrows, sneaking, attacking. This is a great class.
If you could hit them.
Yeah. But yeah, that really was the deciding factor where I'm like, okay, now I understand how to play the game, but from a player's point of view, and there was less to fear. Just from a player's point of view, for me, it's just tell the DM what you want to do, and they will be the adjudicator. They will decide whether or not you can do it.
Your hair's too long to be an adjudicator.
Adjudicate this. I don't know.
I wonder if she'll be back, or if they'll be back. For John Wick 4.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. So,
Some
yeah.
things that if you want to play and you want to either be involved in a campaign, or if you want to run one as a DM, there's a few things that you kind of need. We went over one of those things, the starter kit.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it's not a bad idea for everybody to, if not have the starter kit, at least to have die.
Yeah, die are fun. I like having die.
Dice are great.
Yeah, Cosmonaut Variety Hour, the YouTuber, actually went through this, and they have an amazing video that I've seen probably 3 times by now. But they go through why you should play Dungeons and Dragons and how. And die is on that list. I like having it, but
Nice.
for me, one, you need people.
Yep.
People. I prefer friends, but community or players. I would say at least 3 or 4 players. People playing together overall.
Yep. Right now we're running a campaign with 5 players.
Yeah.
There's 4 player characters, and
I'm the DM, doing my DM stuff. And look here, there's Vin Diesel. Look at that.
nice. On Geek and Sundry.
On Geek and Sundry.
Scroll down just so we could see the title. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Why you should play Dungeons and Dragons and how. What I have is the Players Handbook, and don't be thrown off by the title of the book. It's called a Players Handbook, but it's not necessarily for just for players. It's basically the rule set and the backgrounds and the history of the races and the classes and it has a fair amount of the magic spells and but yeah, it's
It's good for
very
both the DMs.
good to have. Getting the physical book is a bit pricey, but I think it's worth it. You could also get it online if you
Yeah.
wanted to.
Now, over here, if you can make it out, I don't know if you can. It's the App Store with DnD Beyond,
Yeah, so there's also D&D Beyond.
which is either here on the App Store or on dndbeyond.com.
Yeah.
And
And it's great for new players
yeah,
because
there's an essentials page
there's
that
an
just
essentials page.
that tells you what D&D is all about. It's about unleash your imagination.
Yes. And the basic rules are all free and they're all on this
Yeah.
website.
You get 6 free characters from this website, and we're actually going to make a video on how to create it in 3 different ways. So that's going to be great for us and great for you guys if you
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, you can just follow along and like see how we build up a character. That's really fun. And again, basic rules. Also, what's good is D&D Beyond and the app both have dedicated dice rollers.
Yeah, so it does all the math for you. Now, I'm going to bring out a character sheet for this is what they call a level 1 fighter. Doesn't matter. It just says it at the top because they made it for us. And there's a bunch of numbers and a bunch of dots and a bunch of math. And yeah, you
Yeah.
could use this and learn how to do all of that, which some people like doing because rolling the dice is fun. But if you like to drink some Coors Light while playing, and
So
you don't,
pedestrian, Coors Light. We should just get mead. Just invest in mead. That's what we
Honey?
should be drinking.
Yeah, we'll go to Philadelphia, get some meat at that honey vendor.
Uh,
Yes, it is sickly sweet mead. Well, the
Yes.
mead I had was like, whoa, I can't chug this.
yes.
Anyway, that was it. Man, meat is delicious if you take it sparingly. So, both the app, the website, or the character sheet is something essential that allows the player characters and for the DM because the DM kind of knows your abilities and helps
Yeah.
with rolls.
Yeah, we'll go to it later, but you can share your character sheets
Yeah.
and your ideas with your DM, so that's nice.
So that's something that you definitely need. Also the nice thing about the App Store, about the app, is that you get more books and adventures. Because yes, you need the handbook, you need the starter guide that we were saying, and sometimes you don't want to carry all this around.
Yeah.
So, just an advocate for the app, or yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. And it's free. It's absolutely free. I think the character builder is actually pretty good. It could be confusing, and that's why
We're gonna go over
we're gonna.
it.
But that's because you don't have the context. Like once,
You go through it once, and you'll.
This
you'll
sounds nerdy, but like I build characters for fun, just because like oh I can do that. All right, I can put this ability in that. But yeah, it's good to have. But
If you do use the character sheet, something you 100% need: pencils, not pens. Pencils, pencils, pencils.
yes. It could be fancy. Get one of them clickable pencils. Yeah, I haven't really used them since the 8th grade, but yeah, get one of those. But yeah, that's free again. Dice are nice, but you can use the phone or an app or a computer or a tablet for dice. Yeah, from a player's point of view, it's honestly not that difficult because all you need is a character and some dice and a pencil.
Yep.
If you want to write notes. If you want to be a dungeon master, you're gonna do a little more than that. You're gonna study. You're gonna study the crap out of things. and that's where the other videos will take you. You might be wondering, what adventures, do I have to write my own adventure or do I find an adventure?
Yeah.
And like the answer is yes, you can do either.
Yeah.
And I know that the starter kit has the Lost Mine of Phandelver. There's also the Essentials kit, and it's similar to the starter kit. It has the rule book, its own adventure, dice, some cards. It has
Yeah.
a nice little DM screen, a little flimsy, but if you want to feel like a dungeon master, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and the DM screen is kind of important because
Eh.
because when your DM saves your life, it's like, "Aw,
Yeah. No, I make
I
it a
could have
point.
died."
I make it a point not to kill characters on their first adventure. That's just they may not have a good time.
Yep. Now,
Um,
something that's cool with the essentials is the fact that there's also a map because when you're adventuring around, are you in a defined place? Are you just wandering around in your imagination? And the answer is kind of yes, because you can make a map and you could decide where you go, or you could just make it where it's like, oh, I just have the map of the dungeon, and how you got there is you walked.
yeah. We'll go into more details later. Again, I'm learning as you're learning, and odds are, if you're watching this video, you probably know more than me,
Yeah.
and you're just
Or if you
you're just
or if you're brand new and you're along for the ride, welcome. We're,
welcome.
we're gonna make mistakes together.
Yeah, yeah, and that's totally fine. We just love spreading misinformation on the internet. This is great. But yeah, we will talk more about Dungeons and Dragons and our stories and what we've been through, character building, resources that you need as a beginning DM. Um,
Or what you need as a beginning player character,
yeah,
because it's a team game, as we said before, and there are certain things that you as a player character have responsibilities for,
yes,
because if not, you could be forever stuck in checks, and we'll talk about what that means later.
yeah. So yeah, yeah. That's a show, and I hope we didn't waste your time.